So the bottom line of love and sex addiction is homicide and suicide, or suicide. You know, when you think of, when I think of the extreme of love and sex addiction, I think of the woman, I can't remember her first name, I think it was Barbara or maybe Betty Broderick, that she just passed away in prison at 78 years of age. Her husband, well, looky there, Miss Sarah, good to see you. She helped her husband, they had 4 kids. She helped her husband go through law school and medical school. He was a lawyer and a doctor. They lived in California. They had a beautiful home. And he, I guess, fell in love with his legal secretary and divorced his wife and married the woman. His wife, Betty, got, nothing really through the divorce, very little through the divorce. So one morning she still knew the combination of the house, because they were living in the house where her kids grew up, where they lived. She went up the stairs, opened the bedroom door, and killed both of them, shot and killed both of them. That is the bottom line of love and sex addiction, is murder or suicide. So she went to prison for 2 acts of second-degree murder, and she died in prison just a couple of weeks ago. So that's the extreme. And there's everything in between for love and sex addiction. You know, love addicts, in so many ways, you know, they don't really get addicted to love. What they get addicted to is being needed, being wanted. They get addicted to the fantasy of, oh, what it could be. You know, what it could be. And they live in a fantasy, and they forget to tell, you know, the person that they are attracted to what's going on in their head. But it's really, love addiction is a very unhealthy dependence on another person that will create their own self-worth, identity, and emotional stability. So they get addicted to, like I said, being needed, being wanted, the fantasy, the chase. It's the love addict that does the chasing. And the emotional highs and lows, and the fear of being alone. Now, your love addict is the one that will, they do crazy things. They really do crazy things when they're in the disease, when they get any kind of rejection. And, you know, they're the ones that will drive around the home of their chosen one. They will drive around their place of business. They will slit tires. They will do all sorts of ungodly things love addicts do in the midst of that love addiction. Now, not every love addict takes it to that extreme, but it's what separates just someone that kind of has a little bit of, you know, kind of a fantasy about, you know, the opposite sex or something. What really separates the addict from the non-addict is the mental obsession. The mental obsession. And that mental obsession is the idea that overcomes all other ideas. You get a love addict focused on someone, it's all they think about. And it could be their husband, you know, they could be married. I'll tell you the extreme of it is, like I said, murder, suicide, or both. Several counties over, there was a farmer. And this, I didn't make this up. I'm not just telling you a story, but there was a guy that had a farm several counties over from here. And one day his wife just disappeared. And they had kids, and no one could find her. She just disappeared. Well, come to find out, he had murdered her and buried her out in the cotton field. Now that's the bottom line of love and sex addiction. She had had an affair, and anyway, all this was in the newspapers. So, love addicts are, if they don't have someone, they are nothing. You know, if they'll have one hand on the person that maybe they're having a relationship with all the time, having this other hand back here reaching, because they're not going to be without someone. They have to have a love object in their life. And they're addicted to, getting the love in all the wrong places. Because what they think is, without someone, I'm nothing. There's nothing. I'm nothing. And if they leave me, I won't survive. Now that is the message that goes on in the head of love addicts. And then they also think they have to earn love, that they're not okay just being who they are, that they have to earn love. Now the love addict is the one that, we do a little skit in when we're doing, intensives or whatever. We show this little skit about the love addict and the sex addict. The sex addict, I'll get to the sex addict in a minute, goes for the sex act, the release of the sex act. That's what the love addict goes for, the release of the sex act. What the love addict goes for is the attachment to the sex addict. Like I said, they're the ones, the love addicts can go nuts. And they're the ones that will drive around your place of business. They're the ones that will call you at all hours of the day and night. This is after you break up, by the way. In the beginning, the love addict usually does the chasing. For instance, let's say AA meeting or church. Maybe you're in a singles group, or let's say AA is what I'm most familiar with. A love addict, a lot of times, will go to open AA meetings. They won't even be an alcoholic, but they'll go to open AA meetings to meet someone. That's it within itself. And they usually go for the fresh, sober ones. But anyway, let's say this, it's Saturday night, big open AA meeting. And this love addict goes there, and it can be a man. I'm not just saying she, but it could be the one. Most of the time, the love addict is the female, but it doesn't always have to be. But let's say it is this woman, and she'll probably have a girlfriend with her, someone that has come to, along with her for the hunt, and she'll look over that audience, and maybe she'll see a new man there. I mean, somebody that's good looking, and automatically that brain fires. And she will go up to him after the meeting. She will introduce herself. She's not even an alcoholic. I mean, she could be, but I'm saying most of the time. I mean, she's just there finding her a sweet thing. And so they will immediately, or he may not be that responsive, and it makes it even better for her if he's not, because she loves the chase. So she shows up at every open AA meeting, so hopefully to see him, and she will chase him, and he will let her. He will let her, particularly if he's a sex addict. He will let her chase him, and then he will turn around, meet her, greet her, and go have sex with her, and then he's done. He's done till the next time. The sex addict goes for the sex act, the release of the sex act. The love addict goes for the love, and because what they feel like I'm sitting here thinking, and it's mostly women. I'm thinking of the women that I've worked with through the past, or the women I know that cannot exist without a man. If they don't have a man, they're looking for a man, and once they get a man, they keep the man till they wear him completely out and make him nuts, or a lot of times they get married, but the love addict is very possessive, and you can't ever love a love addict enough. Well, you don't love me. You don't love me like I love you. You don't show me love. You don't, and usually for both love addict and sex addict, of course, the business that we're in, we would do this. You take them back to their childhood. That's where it starts. That's where the missing starts. I've never seen a love addict yet. I keep waiting for my first love addict to have a real good relationship with their fathers. Most of the time they are raised by a father that's some form of an addict, either an alcoholic, a work addict, any addiction will do, and he raises that daughter what we call the back walking away. He leaves the house at 6 o'clock in the morning, comes in late at night after work. He's pretty much an absent father. He may be out there working and then taking customers to dinner or whatever, but he's absent. And that's what she gets addicted to, is trying to get that back to turn around and face her. So she picks unavailable men. She will pick someone that is married. She will pick someone that is gay, thinking that she can change him. She will pick someone that shows no interest in her, because the love addict loves the challenge. They love the challenge, and they work hard at it. And once the man, and it could be the other way around, I'm just using the female, but once he turns toward her, it scares her to death, because what she is afraid of is intimacy, and intimacy is into me, I see. And once that man starts coming toward her and really maybe even wants a relationship, it scares her, because she does not know how to be in a healthy relationship. So many times she will turn around and become the back walking away. Now the sex addict, they don't do a lot of chasing. They'll chase a little bit, but then they'll go find somebody else. I mean, we see it over and over. But the love addict gets scared if when someone gets too close to them. As much as they want that intimacy, they don't know how to handle it when someone is really there. And they will push really good prospects away from them, because if the non-love addict gets too close, in essence, the love addict has to be in control. You'd think it would be the other way around, but it's the love addict that has to be in control. And then when we say control, what we say is codependency. Usually your love addicts are eat up with codependency. You can, trace back their childhood, and usually there is, like I said, that absent father, or the father that may live in the home but's not there much, who doesn't show her a lot of attention. They always have that back turned toward her. And so when she starts seeking a mate, she seeks someone that will turn away from her. I mean, that is inside her, because it's the chase that the love addict likes. And then they'll say things like, if you leave me, I won't survive. I cannot live without you. And then they feel like they have to earn love. And so a lot of times your love addict will become a human doer. They will do a lot for the sex addict. And when I say sex addict, I'm really saying avoidance addict. It can be, they don't actually have to be a sex addict. A lot of times they do team up. that they are attracted to an avoidance addict. Usually the love addict is. So what's sex addiction? Sex addiction doesn't really mean having a high sex drive. It's using sexual behavior to escape emotional pain. A sex addict uses sex to get, for that sense of ease and comfort. Sex addiction and food addiction are a lot alike in that we go for that sense of ease and comfort, just that sense of ease and comfort. So the sex addict will have sex to escape emotional pain, to manage anxiety, to avoid intimacy. And I see this in couples all of the time. I mean, I would like to tell you that they come in with different stories. It's the same story told, just a little bit different in that the love addict wants love and affection and attention and time spent with them, and the sex addict wants sex. And so the love addict will withhold sex because she or he's not getting what he wants. And so it's like this, they just butt heads. And for your sex addicts, intimacy really is from the neck up. It's not from the neck down. And your sex addicts usually know very little about intimacy. Intimacy, like I said, is into me, I see. Into me, you see. Into me, I allow you to see who I am. That's what intimacy is. Sex addicts are usually not around long enough they're not interested in that. They're interested in the release of the sex act. And they, like I said, they use it to manage anxiety, to cope with shame. A lot of your sex addicts were sexually abused as children. Some of them severely sexually abused. The perpetrator has no shame, and the perpetrator puts the shame on the child. So that child begins to carry that shame of the perpetrator. Now, if they start using sex, and they use sex it's the conquest, it is the seeking, and they go for the sex act, the release in the sex act. And then it does help them somehow to cope with the shame of childhood. They carry a lot of shame because these people, a lot of times, like I said, have been severely sexually abused themselves as children. And then sex addicts feel temporarily alive because the sex addict a lot of times shuts down. Their whole body shuts down. And so they feel temporarily involved and alive, Behaviors may include pornography. A lot of times that's the freestanding symptom is pornography. Maybe they don't act out sexually except with themselves. Lots of masturbation and pornography. And you can think that wouldn't, if you just thought about it, that you wouldn't think that would be so intrusive in a coupleship, but it is. It's very intrusive because when a man or a woman is looking at pornography, they're not looking at ugly people. Those people on those films could not get a job if they were ugly. They usually have pretty bodies, they have them all waxed up, they make them look good, and, most bodies don't look like that. But that's what the pornography addict looks at, and then maybe they have a wife in there in the kitchen cooking, maybe they have 3 or 4 kids. Each time she's had a child, maybe she's gained 10 pounds. She's not really fat or overweight, she's kind of fluffy. Maybe a little fluffy through the years, You know, she does not look like the person, those women on that pornography. So there's no way she can measure up to the people, and and women. I'll tell you what. We can talk about men getting in pornography. Women, I've treated as many women as I have men. And I'll tell you the combination that we treated with women is gamblers, compulsive overeaters, and sex addicts. That's a triplet. And I've treated them over and over and over and over. I mean, they're compulsive overeaters. They're compulsive with sex. They cannot get enough sex. And then if they live close to a casino and start going to the casinos, they can get all three of them, And then when they get into the gambling, that's the attraction that they go to the casino for the gambling. And then they lose all their money, but then they hang around. And so we see that triplets a lot. Compulsive overeaters. Now, they may not look like it. They may be good lookers, but they do whatever they have to do to keep that weight down. But a lot of your compulsive I say a lot, I've treated quite a few compulsive overeaters that are also gambling addicts, that are also sex addicts. So there's a lot that happens at those casinos besides pulling those slot machines. Okay. All right. So it's, like I said, it the pornography, and then affairs. I will tell you, and I have, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've worked with lots of couples that the man has had affairs. I'll tell you, and I've worked with some where the women have had affairs. When the women men don't hang around very long. The husbands don't. They may for a while. And, being the buckle on the Bible belt, we've treated a lot of people through the church that have been sex addicts. You get a woman that's a sex addict, and they're in the church, it's not pretty. And, she has gotten her, there was, and I'm not saying anything out of confidentiality or anything, it was all over the news. There was a Methodist preacher in Dallas, Texas, a Methodist preacher of a huge Methodist church, huge. And he had like a harem. He had women coming in and out of there, and most of them went to his church. And then someone turned him in, and that blew up like you wouldn't believe. It was in every newspaper, every TV. That is sex addiction at the max, right there. And the women, majority of them are love addicts. They go to the minister because they're usually having problems in their marriage. They will go to the minister for counseling. I am teetotally 1,000% against, now this is me, because I've worked with a lot of ministers. I'm against ministers trying to be therapists unless they have been trained. Ministers need to refer their people in the church out to, send them to a Christian counselor, have one on your staff. But for the minister, and I've treated a bunch of them because we've got a church on every corner in this town of Abilene and 3 universities that are church related. So I've had my share of working with, and I love church people. I'm not putting them down. But there is nothing more highly sexualized than working with a secretary, working with a minister that is a sex addict. Okay, I'm getting carried away here. So there's lots of affairs going on. A lot of times your sex addict will have multiple affairs. Maybe they'll have one long-standing. because she understands him or he understands her more than their spouses do. You know, maybe it'll go on for years. We have a Church of Christ here, a university, and once a year they have this lectureship that lasts a whole week. And people will come from all over the world for the lectureship. And I haven't treated all of them, but I've treated a bunch of them. Because a lot of times these people will have gone to the university together, maybe they dated in college, maybe they went off and, you know, married other people. They come back to that lectureship, they meet up. And then it has destroyed marriages. Some of them have sought help before it did, but they look forward to that because they get with that person that they didn't marry and always wondered, well, what would it have been like if I'd have married so-and-so? So they meet up at lectureship. No, not everyone does that. Only the ones that come to see us, you know, or to see other therapists, you know. Not everybody at that lectureship, you know, pairs up and has sex, so don't think about that. And then there's the anonymous sex, where people will, and anymore, they can find anything they want on the internet. And they won't even know who they're having sex with. A sex addict doesn't care. Anybody will do. And then there's the compulsive masturbation. I got all of my sex education by working with all men at the Serenity House. My Lord Almighty, they taught me things that I never wanted to know. And this compulsive masturbation, it can be where you have to take them to the hospital. It gets that bad. So, and then another thing that your sex addicts will do is constant flirting. We were in the nail shop yesterday. Now, I try not to diagnose people when I'm just sitting somewhere, you know. But this old couple came in. She was all bent over, and what I made up, she probably has Alzheimer's. She was kind of pitiful. He sat her down in a chair, and he proceeded to get his nails done, a manicure and a pedicure. And he talked the entire time that he was in there. He flirted with every woman that walked by. And that's what sex addicts do. They're big flirts, you know. And they usually love women, and women are drawn to them. Now, if they are same sex, they can still be big flirts, constant flirting. And I was looking at that. He had beautiful hair. I wish my hair looked like that guy's. It was snow white. He was a good-looking man, probably in his 80s. But I would watch him. Of course, I watch people, and I could see right across from him. Every woman, particularly the good-looking women, the younger ones, when they would get up and walk maybe to the bathroom or walk to get their hands washed, he would look them up and down and watch all the way till they got wherever they were going. And I just wanted to say, you old codger, stop that, but I didn't. I kept my mouth shut. But it's that flirting, you know, flirtatious. And then there's serial relationships. A lot of times your sex addict will have more. Now a lot of times the ones that have serial relationships, that means multiple relationships. A lot of times this is your highly regarded people in the community. Not all the time, and I don't want to put them in a box, but they will be, esteemed. They will be, people will have them up on a pedestal. And a lot of these people will have serial relationships, which that means they'll have a bunch of them. And women will flock after them, or men will flock after the women. And so another thing about sex addiction is that obsessive fantasy. It's always thinking about sex, that fantasy, and obsessive fantasy. And if you've been around a sex addict, I mean, you can tell when, they have a look, they have particularly, anyway, I won't get into all that. And they will undress women, you can just, but with their eyes. So the behavior really isn't the problem. The behavior is the solution that the person found for unbearable emotional pain. You show me a sex addict, I will show you pain that goes back way back to their childhood. I will show you someone that perhaps had a mother that was engulfing, if it's a man sex addict, where the mother goes down and engulfs that little boy, and maybe her relationship with her husband isn't good, so she'll make that little boy her little man and engulf. When, if you can see my arms, they go down and just bring that son in, and oh, you're my little man. She'll even dress him up and take him to social functions with him, all adult functions, because her husband won't go. She makes that child feel very special. If you want to emotionally abuse a child, make them feel special. Every child that's born is special, but when you put a child up on a pedestal and make them feel special, you're setting them apart from other children. And there are none, everyone's, a child of God, but when that mother makes that son more than what he is, he's a kid. He's a young teenager. He is a teenager. I was in Dallas doing a workshop early on. I didn't know a whole lot, but I was doing workshops, teaching other people. And there was this therapist there, this man therapist. And he wanted to know, and the woman was working with me, she did marketing for me. And so in that workshop, I kind of showed him the type of work that we do. So that gentleman asked me if we would be willing to stay over the weekend and work with him and his business partner. We didn't have anything else to do. The money was good. It was real good. And they were paying all of our expenses. So I stayed over and worked with him. He's passed away, by the way. And I saw right off what his problem was. He was engulfed by his mother. She had him doing things that was not appropriate for a son to do. So he would send me not a lot of notes, but he would call me at times and he would say things like, "You saved my life, you saved my marriage." And it wasn't us. I was very new to the process of what we were doing, But what we have to do is suit up and show up. And when we do that, God's going to show up. And then you'll be amazed at the miracles that can happen. As therapists, we are not the miracle makers. We're just the tools that God uses. And who in the world would have thought? This man had a high dollar practice in Dallas. Who would have thought that we would go and just do a little workshop to introduce what we were doing, and that we would stay the weekend. He put us up in a nice hotel, and that God working through the two of us helped save his life. But anyway, all right. So the addiction, so the behavior. Remember, the behavior of the sex addict isn't the problem. It is the solution to the problem that the person found for unbearable emotional pain. So the addiction cycle starts with emotional pain, like any addiction. It starts with the pain, and it usually starts in the pit of our stomach. There's a pain, and then it goes to our brain and that mental obsession. The mental obsession is what separates any addict from a non-addict. Do you know non-addicts don't have that mental obsession? The mental obsession is the idea that overcomes all other ideas. And this is why we encourage people to get into a program, a 12-step program, get a sponsor, stay connected the rest of your life, because that's how long it takes to treat an addiction of any sort. Because that mental obsession, the only thing that I have found that will relieve the mental obsession, God can and will heal any area of our life that we will surrender to Him. I believe God is the only one that can heal that mental obsession for any addiction. I was talking to Dr. Judy Hollis the other day. Judy Hollis wrote the book, Fat is a Family Affair. She also had a small treatment center in California that she opened, kept it 1 year. I'm so self-centered, I think she opened it just for me, because she literally saved my life. A therapist that I had hired was formerly from LA, and a friend of his was going to work for Hollis in that treatment center. He told me about the treatment center and gave me her book, I think on a Thursday. By Wednesday, I was in LA going through treatment, and it saved my life, literally. So I was talking to Judy the other day. We're going to do a cruise together, I think fall foliage in October. But anyway, I was talking to Judy, and she said what she has seen so much out, and she doesn't do a lot anymore, but she will like speak at OA meetings or whatever. And she says what she finds, particularly with eating disorder people, particularly with your compulsive overeaters, that they still have the mental obsession. And until that mental obsession is removed, what people are on is a diet, and diets we know don't work. The mental obsession, this is why the 12 steps works when nothing else does. The mental obsession, I believe God is the only one that can remove that from our brain. By ourselves, we can't. Now, what we can do is we can treat any addiction. We can stop drinking. We can stop the drugging. We can get on a meal plan. We can do all of those things. But it's God's business to remove that mental obsession. Our business is to not act on it. As long as we're acting on it, the God that I believe in, He says, okay, hands off. If that's what you want to do, I'm going to let you do it till you run your life into the ground. But if you want help, here I am. I mean, that's the God that I believe in. He doesn't rush in like some codependent and tries to save us. He's there, and all we have to do is seek Him. Seek Him, and He can and will remove that mental obsession. I'll tell you what, folks, if He can remove it from me, a compulsive overeater that has been eating compulsively, or had, that's in the past, since I was 4 years old, and gained up to 287 pounds, if He can remove that mental obsession from my brain, He can from anyone's brain. Also, He removed that mental obsession that I had with the people in my life. I was so obsessed with my husband, my children, anyone on the street that looked like they needed my help. I was totally obsessed with them. I was standing in line at the post office one day. Getting stamps for Christmas cards. And by the end of that, I had taken a woman home with me anyway to help her, because that's what I did. My territory is about 100-mile radius. I helped anybody and everybody. That's what codependency is at the max. That was, by the way, before recovery. So, addiction cycle is that emotional pain, it's the mental obsession, it's rituals. Sex addicts, love addicts, particularly your sex addicts, will have rituals. And of course, the acting out, that is the sex act of acting out. And what a sex addict finds is temporary relief, sense of ease and comfort. What do we do for the alcoholics? When alcoholics take a drink of alcohol, what do we get? Sense of ease and comfort. Food addicts, what do we get when we overeat? Sense of ease and comfort. Sex addicts, what do they get when they act out? Sense of ease and comfort. It's temporary relief. And then what follows that is shame. If they have a conscience. Now, I will tell you, I've worked with some sex addicts, not out here, but at the Serenity House, that had no shame. They were not only your sexual acting out, but they were perpetrators, and had no shame, zero shame. They thought women owed sex to them. And then the addiction cycle after the shame is isolation. They do a lot of isolation because if they have a conscience, they feel so bad about themselves and they don't feel like that they need to be around other people. That creates more emotional pain, and then the cycle repeats itself. Emotional pain, mental obsession, rituals. The ritual is, driving around certain places, knowing where to look for your next victim. The rituals of going to a certain place to have sex. It goes on and on. Okay, the difference between love addiction and sex addiction, between love and addiction, Love says, I want to get to know you. Addiction says, I need you to rescue me. And love addicts are there waiting in the wings to rescue someone. Love says, I respect your freedom. Addiction says, please don't leave me. I'll die if you leave me. And the codependent believes that. What happens is love grows. Love gets bigger through the years. I don't know if my husband and I loved each other. I don't think we did when we married. We always said, when we'd go off and be asked to speak at, AA gatherings, AA Al-Anon gatherings, he was looking for sex and I was looking for security, and we put it together and called it love. But through the years, the love grew. By the time he passed away, well, really 20 years before he passed away, we had 20 wonderful years together. The other 31, kind of touch and go. We were both, struggling with our own addictions. We were both, in recovery, and it took a long time for the coupleship. It takes two healthy people to have a healthy relationship. Two healthy people standing tall, strong individually with the God of their understanding. Not the God of our understanding, but the God of my understanding. Two people standing tall. When you can live alone, you can live with someone else. When you can stand alone and be okay with yourself, you're ready for a relationship. But if you go in there, to get something, and this is what my husband and I did. I wanted security and he wanted sex, and we put it together and we got a dependent relationship. We almost sucked each other dry and we leaned on each other until finally I got sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I pulled out and went for help. And then he fell on his face and I let him. I didn't run in there and prop him back up. I let him. And guess what? He found recovery. And so we were, two standing tall with the God of our understanding. And then God puts the coupleship together. People cannot do it. We take care of ourselves. We love the other person. God puts that relationship together. And by the way, everything has to be taken out from between. Okay, the difference between, I've already done that. Addiction says, I need you to rescue me. Okay, so I think that's what I have. Now I've got a little bit more. Love creates peace. When you love when you walk into a home where there's love, you're going to feel peace in that house. You just walk in, and there's something there. Now, it may be chaotic. There may be kids running here and there and jumping from the rafters and all that. But what you can feel is the peace inside that house. I mean, and peace doesn't always have to be quiet. You know, it is. You can just feel God hovering in that home. So love creates peace. Addiction creates chaos. And where does it come from? Many people struggling with love and sex addiction experience, this is where it comes from. Childhood neglect, abandonment and neglect is the seedbed for love and sex addiction. Any form of childhood abuse, emotional abandon. You know, kids can be given everything in the world, you know, new cars, new this, a fine home to live in, and still have that emotional abandonment because the parents don't have time to spend with them. Inconsistent parenting, maybe there'll be the happy parent one day and then the mean one cussing them out the next. Trauma is the seedbed a lot of times for addiction, for love and sex addiction. And then addiction in the family. If there's alcoholism and drug addiction, a lot of people make the decision, I'm not going to be an alcoholic. I'm not going to be a drug addict. And they're not, because they don't use drugs and alcohol. But they've got the gene, and, you know, then they'll go to love addiction, sex addiction, or any other process addiction. Early exposure to pornography or sexual abuse, that is another seedbed for sex addicts. And love addicts, exposure to pornography. My heart sank the other day. It just sank. I didn't know saying I sound so West Texas. My dad, on his nightstand, had stacks of pornography, magazines, you know, and I slept with him half the time. When my mother was in the hospital, you know, my dad had me sleep with him. But anyway, it was pornography magazines is what it was. Well, a kid, I would look at them and I thought, oh my God. So Kim and I, my daughter and I, were talking about it the other day. She said, Mother, I saw those magazines too. When she was a little girl, they were still there. And that's what, saddened me. This is generational stuff, folks. Okay, so when children don't feel secure, they become, as adults, they become desperately searching for love in all the wrong places. Fantasy is one of the greatest drugs. Fantasy creates the illusion that the relationship will finally fix me. If you think a relationship is going to fix you, come to an intensive. It will not. Real intimacy requires reality. You know, let reality set in. Addiction survives in fantasy. We make up all sorts of things. So healthy attachment versus trauma bonding. Healthy attachment is you feel safe, honest, respectful, and consistent. So there is hope and healing. There is help for love addiction and sex addiction, but I do believe people need treatment for it. And what the treatment can look like is, you know, intensive. We have many love and sex addicts come to the intensive. Also, another thing, some need more help. Some need more like inpatient treatment. There's some really good treatment centers throughout the United States that treat that is their focus, is sex addiction. We make referrals there, you know, to different places. So the main thing is get help, and get help by therapists who know what they're doing, that have been trained in sexual. I'm not saying there's not good therapists out there, but you're going to have to get someone that has had the extra training, because just going and getting a master's or a PhD, unless you do specific for sex addiction or love addiction, really sex addiction, you're not going to get it in school. And you know, that's where that specialized training comes in. So that's what I have. We've got a few minutes. Any of y'all have anything that you would like to say or add?